Welcome to the Grow Your Business for Good show. This is a place where coaches and consultants gather so you can learn how to lead a world-class business that does not tax your time, your energy, or your financial resources. We are your hosts, Shannon Hernandez
and Amy Hager of the Joyful Business Revolution. And our number one goal is to bring you clarity and insight on how to grow your business for good. Welcome, 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 wherever you are in the world today. Thank you for joining me. I am Amy Hager, co-creator here at the Content Personality Club, which is a part of our Joyful Business Revolution. And if you've been tuning into the other episodes this season, I'm doing a season without Shannon and inviting other guest experts to the mic today. And I'm super excited to dive in with Nina today. And so, Nina, before we jump into this conversation about being a CEO and what the heck does that actually mean, would you want to introduce yourself to our audience? Who are you? Where are you? What do you do in this world?
Breathe. I breathe. Hi, everybody. My name is Nina Froriep, and I run a company called Clockwise Productions. We've been in business for over 25 years. I'm a filmmaker by trade, and about 7 years ago, I did a complete reinvent and pivot, and now I am a digital video marketer, and I enable and help business coaches, consultants, authors, and speakers to create fun and easy video content, mostly for LinkedIn. That's sort of our hotspot. And we do so with the minimum amount of equipment and a lot of focus on strategy and content creation. And that's sort of the nutshell of that. And I share my time between Switzerland, which is where I'm from originally, and New York City. Ta-da! So yeah, that's it, more or less. And if you hear barking in the background, that's my owner. That's my owner.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I had my cats playing behind me in the sun earlier, and I'm like, oh, I gotta close it. It's getting too backlit in here. So I love how they own us, don't you? Yes. So Nina has been a part of our Joyful CEO program for about 1.5 years now, and she's worked a lot with Shannon and I over the years on messaging and offers and all of that stuff. But where I really wanted to dive in first with you today, Nina, is as a Joyful CEO, can you tell me, well, as a CEO, who are you? Like, what are some of the highest qualities that you have as your role as the CEO of your company? Like, what are your highest qualities?
I mean, I would say, other than having a vision for the business and where I'm coming from and where I want to go, I think sort of in the nitty-gritty of it, I think for me, it would be a very high level of honesty and integrity when it comes not just in working with my clients, but also with my team. So I very much encourage my team to give me unbuffered and beautifully packaged feedback, and also pushback, because I do know that I'm very stubborn. I know that some people call it tenacious, which is a little nicer word. And I know that I tend to run into a direction and then get myself all, tethered up.
Yeah.
So I do encourage, especially my business partner, who's a part-time business partner, to really like push back if they feel like I'm running off into. I love my details, which is why I was a great producer in my heyday. In my other heyday, I was a great film producer because I love my details and I love my spreadsheets and I love all of that. So there's that. And I think also I would never ask of anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do myself.
Yeah.
And
even so, when you say that you wouldn't do yourself, but I think you understand you don't need to do yourself. Like you would do it if you absolutely had to. But there is this.
Yeah, it's not just the task itself, because there is stuff that I ask, Robin, my business partner, does stuff that I don't do, like all the more technical stuff. It's more of a mindset thing, or of a
Hierarchy.
integrity thing. So I would not ask somebody to work on a holiday or weekend if I wasn't also willing to do so, right? Or
Yeah.
I wouldn't ask somebody to neglect their family, or I wouldn't ask, so there's I just want to make sure that, yes, I'm the boss. I'm definitely the boss. But I also want to make sure that everybody is happy, and that joyfulness that comes with being a joyful CEO, that is also joyfulness that I want to see with the people that I work with.
And so then the other thing I think that you have mentioned that I've seen as your role as the CEO is you really are organized, and you figured out kind of the tasks and the directives and how to do things, and unless there's not. And when you don't have it figured out, I feel like you communicate that really, really beautifully and really, really well. And I think that's an important part of your CEO qualities.
Very much so. And I think that also comes from years of being a producer where, you're sort of the top level, like, the film industry is super high. It's like the military. It's very hierarchical.
Yeah.
So as a producer, if you can't communicate to everybody else what their jobs is and what they're supposed to do and by when and how and with how much budget, then you don't have a shoot on your hands, or you don't have an end product or a happy client, or you very quickly, actually, it can go sideways really quickly.
Yeah.
So I learned that there, and it's something that comes to me very naturally. It's also, again, goes back to I wouldn't do anything to somebody else that I wouldn't want to have done to me. So what pisses me off to no end is when people have figured out something and
Mhm.
then pass it on to you without the part of what they figured out, right? Like that's just
Mm.
not cool. So if I want to give somebody else a task or ask them to do something, I want them
Yeah.
to have context. I want them to know why they're doing it. And I
Mm.
want them to have a clear path to doing it. And if there is no clear path, I'll build that into the task, right? Your
Right.
task number one is figuring this shit out.
Right.
And then we'll create an
And then
SOP
let's like,
around it
yeah.
or what,
Mm. And I think the other thing too that we had discussed earlier was, you love feedback, open feedback, pushback, and it may be because of your upbringing in Switzerland, but some people might be afraid of you. Like you're just upfront and honest. And sometimes that scares the shit out of people. And so you don't want people to be afraid of you, but you also know that you're not for everybody, and that's okay. So building the team that works well with you in your energy, in your style as a CEO, I think is really important.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody's going to like me. I mean, that's also one of the reasons why I do videos with my clients, because not everybody's going to like it, you, and there's no fault or not fault, but I recently let a VA go in the Philippines because there had been a buffer between her and me, and then that buffer left. And she just, I don't know whether there was communication going on there prior to me becoming her direct boss, but she was just afraid of me. And I don't want to work with somebody who's afraid of me. And but yes, I am very straightforward. So I tried to fix me first, and
Yeah.
it didn't go anywhere. So I mean, let her go with the best of intentions, and she's with an agency, so she's not like that she's out of a job. And
Right.
now I have a young woman that that gets it, that this is how I communicate. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean I don't appreciate her. I'm just not going to do the sandwich of I love you, change, I love you, right? That's just I'll go right to the change part.
Yeah, just get to the change. We're good. Well, and so then one thing too that I find really, really interesting is a lot of times, so when we talk about CEO mindset and when you're at your highest quality in your CEO-ness, people don't actually call themselves CEOs. And so
I mean, I
it,
don't. Yeah.
and so why do you not call yourself a CEO? What do you call yourself then?
So, I mean, I'll call myself founder or owner. And when I fill out forms, yeah, normally it's like founder or owner. But when I am with clients or when I'm out in the social media world, I
Mhm.
call myself a visual storyteller, because that is something that is inspiring and gets people thinking and gives them a descriptive rather than just, I think CEO is just a dead stop, no more conversation kind of title,
I like
as is founder and owner. But I used to call myself a video democratizer, which much to my regret, everybody told me I needed to ditch because it was just too meta.
Yeah.
But it's still my favorite title for me because that's what I do and that's what I'm passionate about. But I think that, and it's also just like, and maybe that's a Swiss versus American thing. It's just like I'm this CEO of a really small company. It's me plus one, and that one is like, four people sharing the one. So
Yeah.
it's really, we're a small company. And I just find the CEO, it sounds a little, to me, it sounds a little too maybe imposterish,
Yeah.
imposter syndrome-ish. So, but it's to everybody's liking to call themselves what they want to call themselves. It's just
Yeah.
not for me. But that doesn't mean that I don't have the leader quality or the leader
That's what I was going to tie
mindset.
back to. Yeah. Like, even though you may not self-identify as a CEO or even call yourself that or use that term or founder or owner, you still, as the leader, the visionary leader of your business, there's still those qualities that you really have to have in order to guide an organization, in order to have a team, in order to be successful at this.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick break and pause.
Join the Joyful Business Revolution community this February for a public service project for coaches and consultants called Fall Deeper in Love with Your Business. This project was designed for those of us who are moving away from draining business growth practices, and instead, we are choosing to fully embrace business growth in a way that is more joyful and more sustainable.
23 impactful coaches and consultants have come together to answer one question. How has staying true to you helped you fall deeper in love with your life and business?
We invite you to join us for this important community conversation. You can join us at www.joyfulbusinessrevolution.com/deeper.
Now back to the show. And on the flip side, though, as the CEO, founder, leader, visionary leader, whatever we want to title it, you don't have to have everything figured out. And I think that's one thing that is beautiful in your work with Shannon and the Joyful CEO. And so for the last year and a half, the Joyful CEO works very close with Shannon. There's group work, there's individual work with Shannon. We also have Manette, who is a coach in that program. But for the last year and a half, how has it helped you to have Shannon in your back pocket?
Where do I start? I mean, when I came into the program, I come off quite a few coaches, some of which were fabulous, but didn't really understand what I was doing with my business, right? They might have been creative agency coaches or small business coaches, but they were not courses. I'm completely location independent.
Right.
So I work only digitally with my clients, although we're going to start adding some shoot days next year, which I'm super excited about. But in essence, we're still location independent.
Yeah.
And courses and all that. So starting to work with Shannon, I knew I had somebody who lived my experience and could understand where I was coming from and where I wanted to go on a very visceral and hands-on level. So that was number one. So I remember when we signed on, like the first thing we did was like, I was like dying to get off a launch cycle with my programs. I wanted open enrollment, and I thought that was going to be like this. I braced myself for this massive thing that I was going to do with Shannon. It was one-on-one call of 45 minutes to figure that out. And then after that, it was just me being in action. And that wasn't even all that bad because it was creating a lot of videos, which ta-da, not a big deal for us, right? So, and I had my content already. I just needed to organize it and get it out there. So, that was where I was like, wow, that alone, just having that one session where somebody who has done it, seen it, and lived through it, and is at the other end, can give me that shortcut of not figure. It would have taken me a year to figure it out by myself, and probably a lot of missteps. So that's the one aspect. The other aspect was also coming into the group with, very seasoned and successful other entrepreneurs, but yet there's sort of that duality where, yes, we have our shit together. Yes, we've done this for a while, in my case for 25 years. So you don't need to tell me how to run a budget and do the bookkeeping and
Right.
set up SOPs. And I already have a full system of everything. So it gave me the confidence to say, like, yes, I really belong here. But at the same time, it was also like, okay, there's still so much for me to figure out. Am I even the right fit for the Joyful CEO? And I remember you and I had a conversation about that. And where you told me, like, yeah, because you have your structure in place. You just need to figure out, there's aspects you need to figure out that I just had no clue to where to even start. So having the group experience, having the one-on-ones, and then frankly, I mean, having Shannon's eyes on our copy, website copy, if we did special email sequences, Shannon being super generous in sharing her sequences with me.
Right.
I mean, that alone has been like totally worth the investment. Just having access to and learning how to teach, like, Shannon's a teacher at heart. She's been a professional teacher. I've never been a teacher. So just learning through being with her and watching her, and she giving me frameworks to work through, that is just absolutely invaluable.
Well, and I think like the one thing that is a common thread through all the work that we do here at the Joyful Business Revolution is, one, we want you to build your business so that you do enjoy it. Because a lot of times we end up becoming prisoners to our business, but that's not where you're at when you're in the Joyful CEO. You are no longer a prisoner to your business. You have your foundation figured out. The common thread also, though, that you're going to get support on, besides scaling up and working with someone who's done it and having that confidence of that next level of your business, is that messaging piece. Like, even though you had clients, you were getting clients, you probably had I know you had a beautiful referral business. Messaging is like a human. It's going to grow and change as you grow and change as well. And it comes so much clearer in conversation. Like, you can't have this messaging conversation in your own head. So having that other set of eyes who can look through the lens of messaging, positive messaging, and not pain messaging, I think is also really, really key into a lot of the work that you and Shannon have done. And so knowing that she's able to review your copy, your website copy, even review the descriptions of your products and offerings is, I agree, like that is the secret sauce here at the Joyful Business Revolution.
I mean, I think there's a lot of secret sauces around, but that's definitely one of them.
That's one of them.
That's one of them. I mean, and again, like, we had our messaging down in certain areas. And then, like, we were still, especially with, we were still coming a lot from the pain. Like, that is what we have been taught. That is what previous copywriters that we hired for way too much money and not enough impact had done for us. So moving away from that, I mean, it still shows up here and there in small portions, because sometimes it's something too good of a nugget not to go there. But it's just been really helpful to also, and just like the whole like metaverse of, is this joyful? Then we're not doing it anymore. Being present to that is just, incredibly valuable. And I mean, there's so many just hands-on things. I mean, one of my bigger aha moments was when we did the beginning year thing, Inspired Beyond Belief.
Yeah.
And Shannon pulled out a calendar, and she did that with us much deeper than in the Joyful CEO. And it was like, the first color you pick is like your favorite color, and you're going to put in all the weeks you're taking off every year. And I'm still telling everybody about that session. It was like crap. Like, I get to have, because I was just like, I always came from a project-based world as a filmmaker. So you would work your ass off like for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, but
Yeah.
then you also would like take off 2 months because you just made a boatload of money.
Right.
And,
But you also
and
work 24/7
yeah,
for
yeah.
weeks,
And then
right?
also now I'm doing these courses and now I'm not launching anymore. So now I'm always on. And then just the way Shannon taught us how to organize our week, our month, our year. And it was so freaking simple. You could have thought of it myself. But also that is where, it's being given permission to do certain things that give you joy, right? So for the first time in my entire life, in my business life, in my working life, which spans a couple of decades, I actually have a schedule. I was, for the first time in my life, able to book vacation, tell my mother and my sister when I was coming to Switzerland a half a year in advance. My family just nearly fell off the chair because I'm
Right.
like, I'm coming on July 14th, and they're like, how do you know that? Like, don't like what?
What?
It doesn't matter, right? I
Yeah.
now have a schedule. I
Right.
now know when my intense weeks are every month and when my off weeks, if I want to take them off, are. And everything is sort of in a rhythm. And yeah, I'm coming on July 14th. And I don't have to cancel short notice, right? So
Right. And what a you're in a rhythm. And I think that's the one thing when we're building our businesses and when we're, getting to that first 100K, that second 200K, like it's hard to get in that rhythm because we're in that building mode, right? We're in that discovery mode. What's working? What's not working? Do I need to tweak my offer? Something doesn't feel joyful, but I can't put my thumb on it. And along the way, you want to be bringing in steady revenue and steady income. And then you're realizing I've done all of this. I felt like I had a foundation, but there's an even deeper level of foundation at that joyful CEO level. And so I feel like when you're building a house, like, when they build houses and they don't finish the basements and they
okay.
sell the house and someone buys the house, I feel like when you buy the house, that's when you're entering into joyful CEO and you're really finishing that basement.
Yeah. Yeah. When you finally get to work on the stuff that's not the emergency anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So then I think one thing that you had said, and I love taking notes as you talk, and so that way I remember to ask you questions that you said is you want to being a joyful CEO, you want to have your shit together, but you don't have all of the shit together. And so, what shit do you want to get together in this upcoming year within your business?
Hmm. I think where I really want to go is explore. So we kind of, throughout this time with Shannon also became very aware of what at first you just create courses and you hope people will buy it. And
Yeah.
then, you try to fill them and all that. But we're now at a point where I'm very aware of a full ecosystem.
Mm.
And there's a couple of pieces still missing for it. But the beauty is that we have so much in place now that if we had done this 2 years ago, it would have been heavy lifting, but now it's no longer heavy lifting because everything else is in place, right? So that's what I want to focus on, is to really build out that, have that, like, it's very clear to me what's still missing, or not even missing, but what I can still add on to make more sense, and what makes sense within the ecosystem of my offerings. Of what are the missing puzzle pieces, so to speak. So that's what we're really excited about putting in place, and then selling.
Yeah. Do you foresee having to bring more team members on as you're going down this path?
No, I mean, yes and no. I shouldn't say no. So a part of it is project based again, which I'm actually really excited about, because it's now no longer project based when my client tells me to, but it's project based when I choose to. And that's what I'm super, super excited about. And it just took me those couple of years to be able to make that shift for myself. So
Mhm.
when it is in-person shooting, or it is a retreat, or whatever it is, um it's not me taking the back seat and letting it drive me. I now am the CEO, and the shoot days and the retreats are going to be on dates that are still good dates for the clients, obviously, but they're dates that work for my partner and me.
Oh, I love that. And I think a lot of people fear that growing their business means having to add team and have this huge,
No,
organization where you are quote unquote the CEO. And that's not necessarily what it is all about.
no, and the beauty of project-based is, and everybody's like, oh, you need somebody to help you with the retreat, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, maybe with aspects of it, but I mean, I'm in my element now, right? Because that's
Right.
what I know how to run a budget. I know how to organize, logistically complicated things. And this is not even complicated. So, that's going to be adding team for maybe 2 weeks for a coordinator, if that.
Right.
But adding team, for the actual event.
Yeah.
And that I know I have a, 4,000 people deep Rolodex, digital Rolodex. I'm speaking to those of you who know what a Rolodex actually is, which is mostly my clientele, right? 50 and over. So yeah, it's that is just something where you add, it's a one-time ad and not and this is something I learned over 25 years of being a CEO, is what kills you is the overhead.
Yeah, that's so true.
I'm always very generous with my decisions on one-off things. I'm always very thoughtful and diligent with anything I add that is an overhead item.
I love that. And so then as you're going and making this new offering that is sounding super aligned to what brings you joy, and I know this is something that you had experience in before, and what I think, if I'm understanding your journey properly, what got you to where you can actually execute and do this thing is by putting it on the back burner or stepping away from it for a little bit to get other things running super smooth, to get the other part of the business working really well, getting those clients in the door. And now this is like an amazing add-on.
Yeah. And if you have the system in place, and I mean, just today, my business partner and I this morning, we're setting something slightly new up. And I thought that was going to be pretty heavy lifting. And then we just went into what we already have. And it was like copy paste. Our messaging is very clear. So we just had to adjust the messaging, and we were done in an hour, what I thought would take us 2 weeks. Right. So, and that is sort of the
Love
beauty
that.
of, we're now at a point where we have so much in place. We're so well organized, and it's not even being organized. It's having clarity with yourself about what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. And that clarity, that gives you the confidence. And then, you go your merry way. And then things become so much faster and easier because you're not reinventing the reel every single time and going like, okay, so what is this? What is the purpose of this? Why we're in the world? Why are we breathing, etc.
I love that. Well, I want to wrap up our conversation on that, Nina, because the golden nugget that you just said is we have so much in place now. We have the clarity, and it comes easier and faster. And I could not give a better definition of a joyful CEO than that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Of course, Amy, my pleasure. And thank you for asking me to talk about this.
Yes. So I will see you all on the next episode where I'm interviewing another guest expert. But until then, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Your Business for Good podcast with your hosts, M. Shannon Hernandez and Amy Hager.
Head over to www.joyfulbusinessrevolution.com/quiz to take the content personality quiz and join our community. And remember our mantra, if it ain't joyful, we ain't doing that shit.
If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the show, leave a review, and spread the good news with other coaches and consultants.